Are there books that you guys are excited about coming out next year? Because I got a handful that I'm pretty excited about. You want to know what they are? I bet you do. I see you shiver with anticipation. Anticipation. Yes, guys, it's time to talk some books that we're really excited about coming out next year. And look, I want to go ahead and get that elephant out of the room. Neither George R. R. Martin or Patrick Rothfuss will be on this list, so there you go. I know it's going to be the first comment that I get probably is something about those two books, but look, I stopped pretending that those were going to come out years ago. Everyone else is just kind of trying to run to catch up on that one. But let's get into some of the books that I've got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 books that are coming out in 2021, I believe. There are a couple that still might slip off of there, but there are 5 that I want to talk about that I'm very excited about reading sometime next year. But before I get into it, I do just want to address that there will be no Brandon Sanderson on here, and that isn't because I'm tired of Brandon Sanderson, although I did read a ton of Brandon Sanderson last year. I'm not into the Skyward series. Anything that's non-Cosmere of his, I haven't really touched yet. So that's the reason why, and I think he announced in his State of Sanderson that there will be no Mistborn Era 2 Book 4 yet. So there we go. No Sanderson, it looks like, for the first time in a while, but that's okay. I've got 5 big ones that I want to talk about. Let's kick it off here. I talked about the Greycoats a lot this year. The Greycoats by Sebastian de Castell is a series that I gave a big recommendation to. I enjoyed it. It's our first official channel read along. You know, we were starting our Malazan one here in a minute. That was kind of the test run for it. But the deal with that is I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was 4 books and it was over. What do you know? While I was in the middle of reading it, he announced that he's continuing the Greycoats universe, what he is calling the Court of Shadows. And book number 1 is called Play of Shadows. That's coming out sometime, I believe, in June. I am lucky enough that he has asked me if I would be one of his advanced readers for a review, and I said absolutely. I don't know when exactly that's going to happen, but I will be doing that and reviewing that because I can't wait to get back to Tristia and explore that world a little bit more. If you need a sales job, guys, on the Greycoats, I've reviewed all 4 of those books on the channel. I had a great time with them. Little bit of problems with book 3, but again, 4 big books, and I think that I mostly enjoyed almost all of it. My wife read them all. She enjoyed it too. I feel like most of the people that joined the read along had a good time with them. So I'm very much looking forward to. Don't really know where the world is going. I know it's obviously not going to be our same characters. It's going to be different characters. I don't know how far in the future, or how far in the past, or what. Or if we're at the same time or we're just exploring more Tristia. I don't want to know. I'd like to be surprised. So I can't wait to get to that world again. Next up, and I don't think that this is going to be a surprise to anyone, if you follow the channel at all in the past, you know that I am a big time Joe Abercrombie honk. I love The First Law. The First Law is my favorite modern fantasy series. I love it above the Cosmere. I love it above anything else. It is my favorite modern fantasy series. So when he puts out a new First Law book, it's straight to the top of the list. It goes straight to the top. And we'll be getting the conclusion of the trilogy, of the second trilogy, I guess the Age of Madness trilogy is called. Book number 3 in that series will be called The Wisdom of Crowds, coming out in September. I was lucky enough to get an advanced reader copy of book number 2. I don't want to assume I'm going to be on that list for book number 3, but if not, I will be reading it on release day, just like everyone else, because I am excited to see how he's going to tie up this new trilogy, because book 2 was excellent, and I did a review and a spoiler talk for that one because there was so much to unpack there. But guys, if you aren't into First Law by now and you've watched this channel for longer than a month or so, I don't really know what more I can do to describe to you. I've done every single book I've reviewed on the channel. I've talked about why you should. I've done a spoiler and a non-spoiler version of why you should read this series. Basically, I've never really done a spoiler for it. What I did is I did a why you should read on that. It's one of the first episodes on this channel that I ever made, was a why you should read First Law. And then I did spoiler reviews for each one of the 3 books. That's more what it was. And then I did like another sales job on just the Blade itself, trying to get people to read that series. So yes, it's a series I'm a very big advocate for. And, Joe Abercrombie himself was pleased with that. And that's why he made sure that I got on that advanced reader copy list. And I hope that he remembers that when Age of Madness comes to its conclusion with The Wisdom of Crowds. Next up, there's another author that skips to the front of the line, guys. You don't have to look very far to see that that is Stephen King, to all those who don't read The Dark Tower. Stephen King is my favorite author of all time. I don't fight anybody who says they don't like him. It's just my personal thing. I don't think he's the greatest writer ever, but he's my favorite writer ever, my favorite storyteller. And I can't believe this late in his life he's still pumping out a novel or two every year. Now, I say that he always skips to the front of the line if it's a novel. I didn't read If It Bleeds yet. That was a novella collection. I didn't feel like I needed to break my schedule for that. The last new one I read was Institute. And like I said, the channel was kind of in its infancy back then. But this new book, he's got another detective book. It's called Later. And I don't want to say that I won't read it, because I'm sure I will. It's very small. It's just that rule I have. I'll read a new novel, not short stories or case file or something like that. I feel like this one's going to kind of fall where Elevation did, which I did read Elevation right when it came out. So I probably will this one too. It'd probably be a nice palate cleanser. But I mean, anytime King puts out something new, it's going to be on a list like this, because Stephen King, that's my guy. I think if you don't know that by now, if you checked out any of my Into the Multiverse stuff, you know that if there's one author that I'm going to talk about more than anything else on this channel, it's going to be Stephen King. So, of course, if he has a new release coming, I'm going to put it on here because, I don't imagine the man has that many years of writing left in him before he goes ahead and says, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and retire now. Or God forbid worse, But 2020 has been a thing, hasn't it? But anytime he puts out something, it's obviously going to be one of my most anticipated books of the year. Something I talked about a lot on the channel this year was Mr. John Gwynne, as you can see right there. I bought 7 John Gwynne books before I read a single word from him, just because of stuff that I heard about him. I knew he was going to be a writer that I loved. What I never expected was to love that series and those books as much as I did. Faithful and the Fallen has quickly become one of my favorite fantasy series ever. That 4-book sequence is absolutely amazing from book 1 through book 4, page 1 to the very end. It is a ride, and I can't sell that enough to people that is a series I do not see any way you will not be pleased with. It is a good ride no matter how far advanced of a fantasy reader you consider yourself, or if you're just a beginning fantasy series. Like I said, it has that thing where there's a lot of characters and a lot of locations, but once you get that down, I think it's just a brilliant series. But with book 7 or book 3 of Blood and Bone, so he did Faithful and the Fallen, and then he did the Blood and Bone trilogy. So 7 books, but they all take place in the same universe. He's finally going to be stepping outside the Banished Lands this year for what is book number 1 in his Bloodsworn saga. And this is called The Shadow of the Gods. I don't know a ton about it. It's another one of those where I've built up a good enough relationship with the author that he is willing to let me read an advanced reader copy, and I cannot wait for that to happen. But I believe it comes out in May here in the States of 2021, and that will be one that I would be counting down for, because John Gwynne quickly has moved into like my top 3 writers working right now. That's how much I've really enjoyed it. It's like Stephen King, Joe Abercrombie, and John Gwynne are going to be automatic top of the list for me at this point, just based off of track record. I don't feel he's 7 for 7 for me. So I think he's writing the kind of fantasy that I'm really looking for. I love my grimdark. I love my traditional. I feel like he's that fine line in between. So guys, if you need more of a sales job on John Gwynne, please hit me on social media, hit me in the comments, hit me on the Discord. I've got no problems talking to you about John Gwynne and why you should definitely be reading him, because this man is fantastic at fantasy. And I think any fantasy fan that has not read John Gwynne yet, you're doing it wrong. And I can't wait to continue and see what he does in a new world. As much as I will miss the Banished Lands, I am quite interested to see what he's going to do with the keys to a new kingdom. Last up, this one's kind of a maybe, because I don't know if it's actually going to come out. Pierce Brown's kind of went radio silent. He's that type when he's writing, he'll just unplug from social media because he doesn't like the distraction. And obviously I admire that. If you've watched the channel before, you know I am a big time advocate for Red Rising. I think that Red Rising is one of the more underrated things out there, even though it's very popular. What I feel like is that a lot of older readers kind of shrug it off. They think it's a YA series and they don't read it. And when I talked about why you should read Red Rising, I said it's kind of that thing where I feel like it's that baby steps into grimdark for those people who aren't ready to jump straight from like the Hunger Games to like Joe Abercrombie. You aren't ready for that. What I felt like it is for people who like read the Hunger Games and they're grown up now. but they don't want to jump straight into grimdark. You start with Red Rising, and you think, okay, I can get into something like this, and then it just gets darker and darker and darker. And by the end, I'm convinced that Joe Abercrombie is ghostwriting the books because they are that dark. It really is the sci-fi equivalent of The First Law for me. So it's a series that I hold in the highest regards. And book number 6 is supposed to end this second trilogy. And as far as I know, it's ending the universe because he's going to be moving on, I believe, into a epic fantasy story after this. At least that's what when I saw him at that book signing, that's what he told me. I don't know if that's what he's sticking with. Things can change in a year and a half. I don't know. But I don't know if book 6 is coming out next year. This was the original plan. But I think that, the virus that shall not be named threw a lot of wrenches into things with publishers. And a lot of people that finished books this year, they aren't going to go into distribution. They aren't going to go through the proofreading and the editing phase as quickly as they usually would. So a lot of people that are finishing up books this year, we aren't seeing them until 2022. But I'm holding out hope that this one actually does see daylight in 2021, because that is one that would absolutely go straight to the top of my list. Because Red Rising, man, that is a thing. That is one of my favorite ongoing series right now. And man, if you haven't read that one, man, you really, really should. I really hope that you'll give it a try if you've been apprehensive about it. Because, yeah, it isn't for everybody. There have been a few people who jump on the Discord or jump in the comments and say, I wanted to like it, I just didn't. What I've told them is, look, try to read at least the first 2 books. If you aren't clicking with it, yeah, drop it. Go ahead. Because if you don't like the first book, that's okay. I didn't either. Watch our review. I didn't like the first book that much. I love the second book. It was my favorite book of 2019. It was number 1 on my countdown. So it's a series that I highly, highly recommend. But like I said, if you read book 2 and you aren't feeling it, okay, it might not be for you. But more people than not, I think, are going to be into that series. And with book 6, I think the sequel trilogy is every bit as good as the original trilogy. So I think if he sticks the landing here, I could end up liking the sequel trilogy better than I like the original trilogy, because I didn't care for book 1, and I've liked books 4 and 5. So we shall see. But guys, that is really it for me, unless there's some kind of surprise in 2021 that I'm not really considering. That's the ones that I could think of off the top of my head. But what about you? What are you looking forward to reading in 2021? There's got to be something, right? Go ahead and drop in the comments. Let me know what it is. Or if you want to read any of these, let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. Hit me there, and I will talk to you in the comments.